These are the most hated planes to fly by pilots. Death traps, Widowmakers, Unforgiving Machines, Workload Nightmares. Over 27 designs. Some killed their crews, some overwhelmed them, some were just brutal to control. The Fairey battle was a slow, defenseless bomber sent into combat against modern fighters. Its performance was so poor that losses became catastrophic within weeks. During the Battle of France, entire squadrons were decimated in single missions. Pilots knew they were flying coffins, yet orders kept coming. The Brewster Buffalo arrived obsolete. Underpowered and outmatched, it faced Japanese Zeros in the Pacific with predictable results. Pilots reported sluggish controls and poor climb rates. Against superior opposition, survival became luck rather than skill. The Buffalo's reputation was earned through blood. The PZL-P-11 was Poland's frontline fighter when Germany invaded. Outdated by years, it stood no chance against Messerschmitts. Brave pilots flew them anyway, knowing the outcome. The aircraft's limitations turned courage into sacrifice. Poland's air force was destroyed within days, and the P-11 became a symbol of futility. The Blackburn Botha was dangerously underpowered from its first flight. Reconnaissance missions became death sentences as engines failed regularly. The aircraft killed more crew in accidents than in combat. Training units suffered constant losses. The RAF withdrew it quickly, but not before it earned universal hatred. The Christmas Bullet was an experimental fighter that never should have flown. Its designer ignored basic aerodynamics, creating an uncontrollable, unstable machine. Test pilots refused to fly it after the first attempt nearly killed them. It crashed on its only official flight, killing the pilot instantly. The F-104 Starfighter earned its nickname through relentless crashes. Designed for speed, it sacrificed stability and forgiveness. Tiny wings and high landing speeds made every approach dangerous. German Luftwaffe pilots died by the dozens flying it. The aircraft demanded perfection and killed those who fell short. The B-26 Marauder was called the Widowmaker before it even reached combat. High wing loading and hot engines made takeoffs and landings treacherous. Early training accidents were catastrophic, with crews dying weekly. Eventually, modifications and better training reduced losses, but pilots never forgot those early deadly months. The Me-163 Comet was a rocket-powered nightmare. Its fuel was so volatile that ground crews and pilots died in explosions regularly. Landing without power meant hoping the skids worked. The aircraft was faster than anything alive, but survival rates were abysmal. Pilots feared their own plane more than enemy fire. The Beechcraft Bonanza became known as the Doctor Killer. Wealthy, low-hour pilots bought high-performance aircraft they couldn't handle. Its V-tail design was unforgiving in stalls and spins. Overconfidence met aerodynamic reality repeatedly. The crash statistics spoke clearly. Capability without skill equals death. Early Harriers killed pilots through vertical landing accidents. Transitioning from forward flight to hover required perfect timing and judgment. Engine failures during hover meant no options, just impact. Pilots described it as controlled falling with occasional success. The learning curve was written in lost lives and shattered airframes. The T-38 Talon was designed to weed out weak pilots. Its high-speed handling and unforgiving stall characteristics punished hesitation. Student pilots faced aircraft that demanded precision every second. One mistake during formation or approach could be fatal. The T-38 trained excellence by eliminating those who couldn't meet its standards. The F-105 Thunderchief was a brute built for nuclear strike missions, then forced into dogfighting over Vietnam. Heavy, fast, and unresponsive in turns, it bled energy rapidly. Pilots called it the Thud, partly for its sound, mostly for what happened when it hit ground. Losses over North Vietnam were devastating. The Convair B-58 Hustler was the first supersonic bomber and brutally difficult to fly. Complex systems failed constantly. High approach speeds left no margin for error. Ejection seats killed crew members during ground tests. The aircraft demanded perfect technique while systems actively worked against pilots. Accident rates were unacceptable. The Bell P-39 Airacobra had its engine behind the pilot, creating bizarre handling characteristics. It tumbled viciously in spins, often unrecoverable. American pilots hated it and passed it to Soviet forces. Even there, it earned respect only through desperation. The mid-engine design created problems that skill alone couldn't solve.
The Tu-22 blinder killed Soviet crews regularly. Its engines were mounted high, creating dangerous asymmetric thrust during failures. Ejection seats fired downward, killing pilots at low altitude. Landing speeds were extreme, approach angles steep. Soviet pilots called it the man-eater. Orders were the only reason anyone flew it.
The F-4 Phantom was powerful but exhausting to fly. Single-seat variants overwhelmed pilots with radar management, weapon systems, navigation, and combat simultaneously. The workload during low-level strike missions was relentless. Pilots described mental fatigue as dangerous as enemy fire. Capability came at the cost of human limits being constantly exceeded. The F-111 Aardvark demanded constant attention from both crew members. Terrain following radar required intense concentration at high speeds and low altitude. System failures were common, adding troubleshooting to an already crushing workload. Long missions left crews mentally drained. One moment of distraction at 500 feet meant instant death.
The MiG-23's variable sweep wings created complex handling across different configurations. Hydraulic failures were frequent, and manual reversion was brutal. Soviet pilots complained about poor visibility and unpredictable stall behavior. Western evaluators found it demanding and unpleasant. The aircraft required constant management while never inspiring confidence or comfort. The Yak-38 Forger was the Soviet answer to the Harrier, but worse in every way. Vertical takeoffs in hot weather were impossible due to insufficient thrust. Pilots managed multiple engine modes simultaneously during transitions. Accidents were common, and the aircraft's limitations were obvious. It proved that copying concepts without understanding them creates disasters. The Douglas DC-10's cargo door design was fatally flawed. Improper latching caused explosive decompression, severing flight controls. Turkish Airlines Flight 981 killed 346 people when the door failed. Pilots and investigators warned McDonnell Douglas repeatedly. The design persisted until disaster forced changes. Airline pilots knew they were flying a preventable catastrophe. The Lockheed Electra suffered catastrophic structural failures in flight. Whirl mode vibrations tore wings off during normal operations. 2 crashes killed everyone aboard before engineers understood the problem. Pilots flew modified aircraft nervously, wondering if fixes were sufficient. Passenger confidence never recovered. The Electra's reputation was destroyed permanently. The Convair 880 and 990 were fast but commercially doomed. High fuel consumption made routes unprofitable. Handling quirks and maintenance issues frustrated airline pilots. The aircraft arrived late to market and sold poorly. Airlines that bought them regretted it quickly. Pilots disliked flying expensive failures that bankrupted their employers. The early de Havilland Comet pioneered jet travel, then pioneered catastrophic metal fatigue failures. Square windows created stress concentrations that ripped fuselages apart at altitude. 3 aircraft disintegrated in flight before the cause was found. Pilots trusted engineering that hadn't yet understood pressurization cycles. The Comet's elegance hid deadly ignorance. The P-51 Mustang won wars but killed pilots on the ground. Its narrow landing gear and long nose created horrible visibility during taxi and landing. Ground loops were common and forgiveness was absent. Combat pilots loved it in the air, dreaded it on the runway. Fame doesn't erase the pilots who died in landing accidents. The B-17 Flying Fortress is remembered as heroic, but crews froze at altitude without pressurization. Frostbite and hypoxia were constant threats. Flak and fighters killed thousands in unarmored positions. Survival rates on bombing missions were grim. The Fortress nickname felt ironic to men watching friends die beside them in thin aluminum. The Spitfire saved Britain, but punished pilots on the ground. Narrow landing gear made ground handling treacherous. Novice pilots ground looped repeatedly during training. The Merlin engine's glycol cooling system was fragile, and combat damage meant fires. Legendary performance came with operational difficulties that training accidents and maintenance crews knew intimately. The F-14 Tomcat looked magnificent, but was a maintenance disaster. Hydraulic leaks were constant. The TF-30 engines were unreliable and prone to compressor stalls during combat maneuvering. Flat spins killed crews regularly in early variants. Maintainers worked brutal hours keeping them operational. Pilots loved the capability, hated the risk and unreliability.